So now Emily Jerry was a 2-year-old girl who was diagnosed with an abdominal tumor. She received her treatment at Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio, and this treatment did include the use of chemotherapy. Now, on February 28th of 2006, Emily Jerry was due to receive the very last of her chemotherapy treatment. Now, the latest MRI that she took or that she underwent showed absolutely no further trace of the tumor, and it appeared that she had actually beaten cancer, and she was bound for home. Now, on February 28th, 2006, a pharmacy technician by the name of Katie Dudash prepared a chemotherapy solution for Emily that contained a saline base of 23%. Now, the formula actually called for a saline base of less than 1%. News reports do suggest that Katie Dudash was preoccupied. She was a little bit preoccupied because she was planning her upcoming wedding. But I mean, and that's the only thing that I can think of that anybody involved in this case can think of that would allow her to make such a gross misstep in judgment. And as you know, or even if you don't know, you can probably guess that a chemotherapy solution that has 22% more of anything that it needs would probably be harmful, if not deadly. Now let's talk a little bit about Eric Kropp. Eric Kropp was the pharmacist in charge on the day that Katie Dudash mixed that chemotherapy dose. Now, after she mixed the dose, Katie informed Eric that something seemed a little bit off. Eric Kropp simply brushed off Katie's warning, and the lethal dose was indeed administered to Emily Jerry. Now, shortly after Emily received that dosage, she woke up screaming in agony, and she kept crying and stating, "Mommy, my head hurts." Now, on March 1st, 2006, just 3 days after Katie Dudash mixed that lethal dosage, instead of going home, Emily Jerry's little body was delivered to the morgue, and of course she was dead. Now, let me describe for you a little bit about Emily Jerry's last days. The child remained on life support for several days. Her brain had swollen so badly that her eyes bulged. Her mother, Kelly Jerry, gave her daughter one last sponge bath before they removed her from life support. And by the time the nurses pried the child from her mother's arms, her body was rigid and cold. Now let's talk a little bit about Eric Kropp, the pharmacist, and his fate. Now, in a pharmacy setting, the pharmacist is the one who bears all responsibility for all of the pharmaceuticals that leave that pharmacy. So when Katie Dudash told him that something seemed off, I mean, obviously he probably couldn't look at the bag of the batch of chemotherapy and say that okay, yeah, that's off, make another one. Just her suggestion that something seemed off should have prompted him to have her to mix another batch. He was indeed convicted of involuntary manslaughter. He did serve 6 months in prison and 6 months house arrest. He did forever lose his license to practice pharmacy. And since this tragedy, he has stated many times that the weight of this tragedy will haunt him forever. Now, today, Eric Kropp travels the country and he gives speeches to other pharmacists in training, and he talks to them about the importance of basically not becoming another him. Now, let's talk a little bit about Katie Dudash's fate. As you recall, Katie Dudash is the pharmacy technician in all of this. She is the one that actually mixed the dose that killed this child. Again, as the pharmacy technician, Katie Dudash's mistakes would have fallen on Eric Kropf's shoulders because he was the pharmacist in charge. She was indeed fired by Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. Right after she was fired from the hospital, she went right to work for her former employer, which was CVS, and she was again working in a pharmacy technician capacity. When CVS finally caught wind of Katie Dudash's mistake, they placed her on an administrative leave while they processed an investigation. Now, today, Katie Dudash does claim that she does not work in a pharmacy setting and she refuses to give interviews. Katie Dudash escaped any and all prosecution and legal responsibility for Emily Jerry's death. But can you imagine the type of prosecution that goes on within herself if she has any conscience whatsoever? Now, Emily's parents, Chris and Kelly Jerry, they sued Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. They did win a $7 million settlement, but obviously Emily's death was still in vain. So what they did was they came up with this big idea. They founded the Emily Jerry Foundation, and the legacy of that foundation and the legacy of Emily Jerry has become today what is Emily's Law. So now let's backtrack. At the time of Emily Jerry's death, Ohio was one of many, many states that did not and still do not require licensing or minimum education requirements for pharmacy technicians. And today, because of the work of the Emily Jerry Foundation, Emily's Law states that all pharmacy technicians in the state of Ohio must adhere to strict requirements and regulations. Now, let's just talk a minute about the purpose of this particular video series. My initial goal with the pharmacy technician training video series was to help people to pass the pharmacy technician certification exam without them actually having to attend school. A lot of people actually have passed that exam without going through a formal educational training program. I did it. It wasn't that hard. But in light of situations like these, what I believe today is that if you are going to be a pharmacy technician, you do need to attend some type of formal educational program. Even if it's just an online program, I do believe that there does need to be some sort of minimal training. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, most states are just like Ohio was. They don't have any particular requirements, any type of education requirements for pharmacy technicians. A lot of pharmacy technicians learn about pharmacy on the job. Now, one thing that I do want to say about this particular case and Katie Dudash, the pharmacy technician, most pharmacy technicians are not going to be involved in mixing chemotherapy. Now, that is going to be a job that will fall on the shoulders of an institutional pharmacy technician, or institutional pharmacy technicians. If you don't already know and you haven't watched any of the other videos in this series, are actually hospital pharmacy technicians. So they are technicians who work in a hospital or an institutional setting as opposed to a retail setting. Anyhow, the thing about that is that because institutional pharmacy technician positions usually pay more and they have obviously a greater responsibility, most hospitals are not going to hire you anyways without you having some sort of educational and at least employment experience as a pharmacy technician. Now, I do know that the National Pharmacy Technician Association they do offer voluntary chemotherapy certification training courses. And I will go ahead and put together a video that will introduce you to that process at a later date. And let's go ahead and go on with the rest of this video for now. So now today, the Emily Jerry Foundation currently seeks to raise public awareness about pharmacy errors. And what they do is they crusade for tighter regulations for pharmacy technicians. And that's just what I was talking about previously. Now, if you would like to make a donation to the Emily Jerry Foundation, you can go ahead and follow the appropriate links that I have inserted below. Now, as a final word, Emily's Law was put into place to prevent or at least reduce the possibility of another careless mistake like this. But again, to drive the main point home of this particular video is that as a pharmacy technician, you should never forget how important the scope of your duties are, because they really are. And that, guys, will bring me to the end of this video today. I do want to